Alright, this is Ken Boy. It's 10/10, 2210 Friday, January 8th. We're just starting to watch the Rukeyser, I think it's annual, once a year, hour-long money show. I don't know what the name of it is. We watched the regular Wall Street thing, Wall Street Week at 9 to 9:30, and we watched McLaughlin Group. Now this is on. It's 10:11, and here we are with Rukeyser.
One of the most exciting and controversial topics these days is the Internet, which is one of our main focuses for tonight. 55% of our cross-section of Americans say they have used the Internet, with nearly 3 out of 4 users reporting that they log on at least weekly, most often to gather information. So 40% said they send email at least daily or weekly. What's ahead for the Internet over the next 12 months? Let's ask my first guest, who is not just a key shaper of our technological future himself, but so combatively outspoken a foe of Bill Gates that he is considered the principal architect of the government's antitrust suit against Microsoft. This 5-star general in the Internet wars is Scott McNeely, who at 44 is just a year older than his nemesis, Bill Gates, and who co-founded Sun Microsystems in 1982, taking the reins as CEO in 1984. In pursuit of McNeely's belief that, as the company's slogan puts it, the network is the computer, Sun Microsystems has become the leading global supplier of network computer systems and the developer of a programming language, Java, which is designed to work on any computer system.
As media worthy as a fun top 10 list on how you know you're a monopolist or something like that. But it's nothing personal. It's just all about going out there and taking care of our customers and providing a return for our shareholders.
I want to get to your products and what you're doing for your customers, but first let me just ask one more question about the government's antitrust suit. Why shouldn't the average American regard this as a battle between billionaires and not something that should be attacked through a taxpayer-financed antitrust suit?
Well, I think we have laws on the books, and we've had the Sherman Antitrust Act on the books for 100 years now, and it has been incredibly successful and effective, and I think it's been applied actually not perfectly, but quite effectively in terms of keeping the U.S. economy a market economy where the invisible hand works, where competition works, and it's done a fantastic job of that. And this is not Sun going after Microsoft. This is the U.S. government enforcing the laws that are on the books. I believe the government is doing way too many things, but one of the roles that I believe is there for government is law enforcement. Make the laws and then enforce them. The laws were made. They've proven to be very, very effective. Just look around the world and see if you see an economy that is more effective and efficient and competitive than ours. And it has been because we've applied the Sherman Antitrust Act. It is a situation of if you exceed the speed limit, even though you're not speeding now or you promise not to speed later, if you've exceeded the speed limit and you've gotten caught, you're going to have to face the music. And I think that's what is happening right now.
Part of the basis for your belief that Microsoft is an illegal monopolist is the fact that Windows is on more than 90% of computer systems. What do you think will replace it and when?
Well, I'm not a great visionary. I believe there's an opportunity here to provide an environment where, do we know what operating system runs on our telephone? Do we know what operating environment runs in our game machine or runs in our microwave oven or any of the other electronic devices? It's interesting, out of the, I think it's like $2.1 billion microprocessors shipped last year, only 70 million of them were PCs. The issue is, in all these other devices, we're not beholden to, we're not, like getting trained up on the operating system. The new operating environment of the future will be one you just don't know about, will just be invisible to you.
1998 was, by any definition, the year in which the Internet really came into the average person's life. What can we expect next in changes in the Internet?
Well, I'm not sure it came into the average person's life. Last time I checked, more than half the world died without ever making or receiving a phone call, much less gone out and done some e-surfing or e-shopping or e-chatting. So I think the opportunity here, and the reason why you see so much excitement, is that the Internet is an opportunity to actually get out to the folks who can't afford to buy a car, who can't afford to take a plane trip, who can't afford to go to the library or to quit their job to go
But they
get
can afford a computer?
an education. The internet is an opportunity to take this technology to those people who just haven't been able to, even make a phone call today. So I think we've got a long way to go before the average person.
They got a computer?
A lot of people like to talk about the vision and where it's going and all the rest of it. I'd just like to see the technology that we have today expanded and made available to those people who really need it. And those are the folks who don't necessarily have it today.
How would you propose that this be more widely disseminated?
Idiot.
Well, the first way is to make sure that the government doesn't drive it. The government gets out of the way of it. The government makes encryption readily available to everyone, because encryption is all about making your information safe from criminals, not making criminals safe from law enforcement agencies. If you believe, half the world, more than half the world is bad, don't allow encryption. If you believe more than half the world is good, allow them encryption so they can protect themselves, so that they feel safe going out and spending time in cyber neighborhoods or on cyber freeways. If you don't allow encryption, if you mandate things like universal access, it will only slow things down. So I think government's role is to fundamentally stay out.
A lot of people get sentimental about their old school rings, which are a link to the past. I understand you have a ring which you regard as a link to the future. Could you show it to us and tell us how it works?
I didn't bring my Java ring with me today, but fundamentally you now have the ability to embed microprocessors on the devices. The one ring I have to wear is my wedding ring.
You have your priorities straight.
Yeah, well, everybody has a boss. But the opportunity here is to be able to embed microprocessors into devices as small as rings and smart cards. And in fact, who knows, maybe at some point we have embedded processors in it that are proximity-based and can actually know when you're walking through a door, know when you're approaching the gate at your airport terminal, or know when you're walking up to a rental car that's been rented to you. And all of these devices just automatically know. It'd be nice not to have to check into a hotel. Just walk into a hotel, walk up to a kiosk, put your ring on the kiosk. It tells you what room to go to, and as you reach for the doorknob of your hotel room, it opens up, and the set-top box now beams down your information. The phone now rings when your phone number is called. That sort of thing. And that's the model of wearable and
Do you want that? I've got no desire for that.
computing that we see moving forward.
I'm sorry.
Scott, you modestly said that you can't predict the future with any great precision, but you get the big bucks for trying to stay ahead of the curve. Looking ahead, how far can we look, and what do you think will be the most significant change in the next decade?
Oh, wow. Again, I spend most of my time just trying to get information officers, CIOs, and service providers just to take advantage of what we have here today. 3.5 years ago, I wasn't standing up here predicting write once, run anywhere Java technology. 6 years ago, people weren't standing up predicting the browser technology. Nobody 6 months ago or 8 months ago was predicting the eBay kind of phenomenon, or a year ago, the Amazon.com phenomenon. These things are just happening so fast. Anybody who says they can predict is just pulling your leg. All I know is that the most important characteristic for a person or an organization to have today is an eagerness to adapt to this new online world, as opposed to a habitual kind of sedimented, coagulated, I hate change kind of attitude, because you're just going to miss out on a lot of fun, a lot of opportunity. And I also believe an opportunity to raise the standard of living for everybody on the planet.
Do you think this is a generational thing? Will the next generation find it easier to adapt?
Oh, I think so. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home, and they're just growing up online. They're growing up understanding the network. They're growing up understanding electronics, and I just look at the games and toys. Everything's got a button on it. I look at what I used to play with, and it was very, very different. And I just think their whole mindset, their whole way of thinking is not constrained by the 4 walls that they're in or the field that they're playing in. They feel connected, and they are certainly much more cyber aware than we ever were. And I think that will create a different thought process, and it will prevent some of the boundaries that some of us old geezers have when we think about how to attack the problem.
Scott McNeely, thank you very solidly. As many a merchant can attest, one of the biggest recent changes in America is the increasing business done on the Internet. 27% of those we polled say they have already bought something there. Nearly half are convinced that the Internet qualifies as a truly revolutionary development. with just 9% saying it will go the way of the hula hoop. Let's talk with one of the greatest beneficiaries of the internet boom. Jerry Yang personifies the American dream, internet style. Born in Taiwan, where his father died when he was 2, Jerry came to the U.S. at the age of 10, and 15 years later launched with his partner David Philo, a fellow PhD candidate in engineering at Stanford, Yahoo, the free internet guide that has become, in less than 5 years, one of the technological and stock market wonders of the century. Jerry Yang joins us from Mountain View, California, where he operates under the most fascinating title in corporate America. He's the company's chief Yahoo. Jerry, in case any new mother watching this program yearns for her baby to repeat your success, please explain what the heck a chief Yahoo actually does.
Well, we started a company and decided we needed to print out business cards, and both David Philo, my partner, and I decided we weren't going to be the CEO or the president, and needed something that's easy to remember. So we came up with Chief Yahoo, which basically means we're founders of the company, and we try to do whatever we can to help the company grow.
And whatever you feel like doing is okay, then.
Well, we got to be helpful.
How do you account for Wall Street's runaway love affair with the internet? And do you ever worry that it may have gone too far?
Well, we always take a very conservative view of how we run our business, and very strong perspective of how potentially the internet could change the world. The stock market really does what it does on its own. We are like players on a field and playing the game to win. And the speculators and the people who wants to watch the game are paying a price to watch the game. And for us, we need to be the winners in all of this, and regardless what the valuation is, we believe being the strongest company and the best run company will have relatively the strongest valuation. As a whole, I do think a lot of people, including retail investors, are very excited about the sector, and you've seen the run-up in the last couple months.
What can we who just use our computers and don't really have any idea what it is you folks are doing out there expect next from the internet as it affects us?
Well, I think as you start looking at the internet, starting from something that's more of just a technology researchers medium, and having evolved into a medium where now over 100 million users around the world are using, and the forecasts are over another 100 to 200 million people will get on the internet in the next 3 years. It is about becoming a mass medium, and it is about becoming a part of people's everyday lives. So where we have seen last 3 years ago, people were just surfing around the internet. Today, people are becoming more efficient. They're taking actions. They're buying things. They're checking stock quotes. They're paying bills, and they're communicating with other people around the world using the medium. We can expect that more people are going to do more things that pertains to their daily lives, and we have to make it easier for them.
How will Yahoo change to make it easier for us?
Well, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to continue to provide a free service, as we've always done, to enable a user to do what they need to do on the internet. And it used to be just searching for information. We've evolved to developing communication services like email and chatting and message boards. And even in the last year, we've developed a lot of shopping and commerce services. Going forward, you're going to see us continue to focus on those areas, even things like financial services. We're going to start integrating more and more with financial institutions, allowing people to take more control of their own data, to do more with that, and be able to communicate more with people who they share interests with.
Is there any significant threat to the continuing success of the internet?
Oh, sure. I think that, if you look at the internet, it is a very fragile dynamic system, if you will. It is made up of a lot of infrastructure, primarily on the telecommunications side. It is made up of people using it. It is made up of software that people write. And more importantly, it is a growing social phenomenon. And let's not forget that when you have hundreds of millions of people interacting at the speed of light, you're redefining a lot of the social rules as well. And with all the good potential comes with it, you have to also make sure that the safety, the privacy issues, and the criminal issues are also addressed as part of this. And I think part of this, the threat to the internet could be that we need to manage a internet society of people that are not ruled by a few bad people, and looking out for the overall good of the medium.
Are you confident that we're moving in that direction?
I think the industry and the government and the users all have responsibility of making sure that we're going towards the right direction. I think what we have seen from the industry and certainly from the government is that the internet is a growing medium, and we need to do everything to make sure it continues to grow, which does mean that we need to make sure that people's privacy are protected, the children's safety are protected, and when you do commerce, it is a safe and accountable place. And those are things I think we're working towards, and clearly those are only some of the issues that we're going to be facing, but we do believe it is going in the right direction.
Jerry Yang, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Success stories like Scott McNeely's and Jerry Yang's might lead you to believe that the internet is a guaranteed road to fabulous riches. Not so. Few came with better credentials than Bill Melton, who was founder of Verifone, had come up with those ubiquitous little boxes that merchants use to swipe your credit cards. When his new company, CyberCash, went public in 1996, many thought he would repeat his success in the new world of electronic commerce. The stock was at $60 within a week, but when consumers proved hesitant, the stock fell below a tenth of that price last October, and despite a rebound, is still well below where it was as recently as last spring. Bill, what did you do wrong?
Well, none of these things are perfect, and all of us in the internet are trying to carve out niches and spaces where we can bring real productivity and real convenience to the consumers.
Is it that consumers are scared about security? Is that what's been holding things back?
No, I think it's been a mix of things. First, there had to be an adequate selection of goods on the internet. There had to be a certain amount of education on the internet. And I think Christmas and the holidays of this year has proven that that critical mass is coming together.
You have said that electronic shopping, or e-commerce as it is called, is the future. How much bigger do you expect it to be this year than last?
The numbers that we see, looking at from the different analysts, would indicate that what we see a tripling effect. That is, this year is up at least 3 times of what last year is. Next year looks like it should be up at least 3 times of this year, and looks as though that tripling effect should continue until we see within 4 or 5 years perhaps 40 to 50% of both retail and business-to-business on the web.
Why don't you explain what your company is doing now?
CyberCash enables payments both in the physical world and in the web-based world. We provide technology to merchants and to banks and to financial institutions.
What role do you expect to play in addressing those concerns you just cited?
Probably the biggest and the most important role is providing convenience. Certainly for the consumer, we believe that the consumers going to the web are going primarily for the time savings and convenience factor. We believe the consumers want to have one-click shopping. We believe that consumers want to have the association of a financial institution branding or putting their stamp of approval on that one-click shopping. And of course the merchants want to make it easy for themselves as well.
So does one-click shopping mean there's just going to be one store on the web?
Oh no. Obviously the web-based stores are growing day by day. The stores get added all the time, and there will be as many selections, in fact perhaps more selections on the web than there are in the physical world.
Can people feel safe now about the security of their credit cards?
All the figures that we've seen that there is less risk on the web than there is in many physical locations. We have not heard of any major fraud or losses. The banks and the financial institutions do stand behind the individuals on the web.
What's the principal obstacle to further growth now?
Again, as we mentioned, I think it is the coming together of several things. First of all, adequate selection, which is now happening. The consumers are becoming educated. This year, we believe that there was over $13 billion spent on the web. We believe that next year there will be something in the neighborhood of $30 to $40 billion spent.
What will I be able to do a year from now that I can't do now?
You will have much greater selection on the web than you have now. You will have more convenience on the web. You will probably have all of your financial instruments in some sort of a electronic wallet. As you go from merchant to merchant, that electronic wallet will be branded by a financial institution probably. And all of those forms that you have to fill out now, you won't have to fill out next year. You'll do one click and that will happen. You will find any site that you go to a great amount of convenience and security because you do have your financial institution there with you.
Bill Melton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If the gloomier prophets have it right, all the other problems in this new technological age may seem minor in less than a year when we encounter the worldwide computer problem known as Year 2000 or Y2K. Caused because many computers were programmed to recognize only the last two digits of a year, and therefore might confuse 2000 with 1900. An amazing 92% of those polled say they have heard of the year 2000 computer problem, but a majority of 52% believe it will produce only minor inconveniences. Are we being too sanguine about all this? Edward Yardeni thinks so, and he is by no means a perpetual pessimist. An old friend of this program, who correctly predicted the economic advances of recent years, Ed is chief economist of Deutsche Bank, and perennially among the country's top-rated economists. Ed, what do you think is going to happen next January 1st?
I think there is a high likelihood that the economy will actually fall into a recession. I think there are going to be some very serious disruptions. They will fix most computer systems, but there will still be enough disruptions, I think, to push us perhaps into a recession in the U.S. and very likely a global recession around the world.
Will planes fall from the sky?
No, I don't know where that silly stuff came from. I think in some way one of the problems with the year 2000 is people associated with doomsday and all sorts of silly things like that. Plane flights might simply be canceled. They won't fall out of the sky. The planes will work and cars will work, pacemakers will work. I can't guarantee all these things, but the manufacturers of all these products say they're going to work.
Will our power supply be disrupted?
That's a good question. I think we may very well have some blackouts and some brownouts here and there on a random basis in the U.S. Overseas, though, I think there could be some very serious, much more serious blackout and brownout situation.
What would push us into a recession?
Well, think of the just-in-time manufacturing system. It vitally depends on all these components getting to the loading dock just in time, getting on the assembly line. It wouldn't take much to disrupt that. It depends on the computers being able to keep track of all the components that have to be assembled at the same time. And since the year 2000 problem is a global problem, if we lose track of parts that are supposed to come in from Brazil or from Korea, that could disrupt our ability to produce cars in the United States.
Why did this problem catch us by surprise?
I think it's because computers work so well. They work so well, and they are so good at doing so many things in business and government in our daily activities that we just took it for granted that they all will always work well. And when they don't work well, it's just a very temporary thing that's fixed very quickly.
Every major business, plus the U.S. government, claim they're working hard on this problem. How are they doing?
I think they're doing pretty well. I wish that they had started about a year earlier, and that many of them were reporting that they had finished their project now. The government plans to finish by March of this year, which is good news if they can accomplish that. Businesses, though, I think are actually behind the government. Many businesses are still working on it, and they still have a lot of testing to do in 1999.
Will people get their Social Security checks on time?
Well, the administration recently made quite a big deal about the fact that the Social Security system is fixed. What wasn't very well advertised is that the Social Security system started 10 years ago and really got their effort going in 95 and 96, so it takes a lot of time.
Are you confident that our national defense is secure?
I'm honestly not that comfortable with that entire area. The Defense Department has really been one of the agencies that keeps getting very low marks in progress reports that have been coming out on a quarterly basis. And if we've got problems, you can imagine the extent to which the Russians must be behind in dealing with some of their computer systems.
What should an investor do?
Well, I think an investor has to stay on top of the situation, and it is very encouraging to see that so many people are aware of the issue. I don't think they should assume, though, that it's just going to be a trivial problem. I think a lot of people assume that because everybody knows about it, it's going to get fixed.
Which will be the worst hit industries you get in?
Well, I think manufacturing is particularly vulnerable because there's supply chains, and it wouldn't take much to disrupt the supply chain.
It sounds as if supply is your chief concern. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really the greatest vulnerability. And since it's a worldwide problem, I'm concerned about the fact that we depend on lots of products that come from other countries.
Are you concerned to the extent that you are personally stockpiling food?
No, I'm not doing anything that extreme at this point. I think there's still time to fix a lot of the problem. I think there's still time for our leaders, our business leaders and our political leaders to tell us where we are. I would say by the summer of this year, I don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling that the problem really hasn't been licked to a large extent. But at that point, I'd consider doing some of these, I think, rational precautions. I wouldn't do it right now personally, but I'm not giving personal advice to others how to deal with it either.
Meanwhile, where will you spend next New Year's Eve?
Well, I usually do like to fly off, and I'm not concerned about the planes being the problem. I'm concerned about whether there might be some cancellations. I'll be home.
Thanks very much, Edgar Denny. Not many people even know we have one, but John Koskinen is America's Y2K czar, developer of a White House plan as head of the President's Council on Year 2000 Conversion. He joins me from Washington. John, you've heard what Edgar Denny just told us. Is he right?
Well, Ed certainly knows a lot more about the economy than I do. I'm not an economist. But I think at this juncture, our view is there's no evidence to indicate that there will be a major economic downturn as a result of the year 2000 problem. That doesn't mean that it isn't a serious and a real problem, but it's just that at this juncture, most of the major segments of this economy are making significant progress toward dealing with the problem. And my understanding is most economists think that there will be a very modest, if any, impact on the gross domestic product of the United States.
There's been a lot written and said about what will or will not happen next New Year's Day. What do you think we're really in for?
Well, part of the problem is that no one really knows in terms of being able to accurately predict at this stage exactly what's going to happen. When I started a year ago, of course, it was even more difficult. At this time, as I noted, we have increasing confidence that the basic infrastructure in the United States will hold, that there will not be national power outages, telecommunication difficulties, or transportation problems. What we think there is a risk of is localized disturbances and difficulties to the extent that the small and medium-sized power or telecommunication companies have not paid appropriate attention to the problem, or to the extent that towns and cities or counties have not looked at their basic services and ensured that they are compliant for the transition to the year 2000. So I think that's what we're at risk in, and that is in areas where people are not paying appropriate attention on a local level.
The federal government presumably is now paying attention. How would you rate its readiness at this point?
Our goal, as you heard earlier, is to complete work on all of our mission-critical systems by March 31 of 1999, which will be 9 months in advance of the transition. And at this juncture, we expect that the vast majority of federal systems are going to meet that deadline. And so, again, we are very confident that if there are any difficulties from the year 2000 problems for the economy or the public, they will not come from federal systems.
Is there any danger to our national defense, as Ed hinted he was not entirely sanguine about?
Well, the Defense Department is the largest federal agency and in many ways has cornered the market from the federal standpoint on what are called embedded chips or microprocessors. All of those smart weapons that have been used recently in the Gulf are smart because they in fact have the embedded chips within them that feed information back to control centers. So it's a massive problem they have to undertake to test all of those systems to make sure they operate. But their goal is to be finished by the end of 1998, and we have a full-day meeting tomorrow at the Defense Department reviewing their progress. And not all of their systems will have met the 98 deadline, and some of them will not meet the March 31, 99 deadline. But we are confident that all of them will be operational by the end of the year to the extent that they are critical to our national defense.
Which of the commonly voiced concerns do you share, if any? Are you worried about elevators? Are you worried about airplanes? Are you worried about power supplies?
Well, those are all, as I say, important matters for people who have been focused on over the last year or two. Elevators were the ones that got the most attention. It turns out, fortunately, that the major elevator manufacturers have found that there are no inherent problems in the elevators themselves unless they're connected into a very smart building system where the system itself has a problem.
What would be your advice to the average American approaching Y2K?
I think our advice to the average American at this point is to be an informed consumer of information. It's important to pay attention over the next 3 to 6 months. As Ed noted, we'll all know a lot more as we move into the summer about where the basic companies and infrastructure in this country is in this problem. And our view is if the public has adequate and accurate information, they will respond accordingly. So part of our goal, as was shown earlier this week, is to provide to the public all of the assessment information, sector by sector, that we have. And I think that as we move through the late spring into the summer, there will be sufficient information available for the public to be able to respond accordingly.
Thanks very much, John Koskinen.
Pleasure to be with you.
John Koskinen's boss, President Clinton, remains under a cloud. When our pollsters asked what people expected to happen to him, 54% said he would be censured, 15% said he would be totally exonerated, and the same number said he would be removed from office by the Senate. But a significantly larger group said he should get greater punishment. While 32% favored censure, a total of 39% said the president should either be removed from office or resign. Despite these wishes, fully 66% think Bill Clinton has done a good or excellent job as president, and that's up by 16% from a year ago. While the conventional wisdom is that everybody hates Congress, its own lukewarm approval ratings have gained a bit in the past 12 months, with 37% now crediting it with at least a good job,